So far, 16 people in total have been arrested by Surrey Police. Lisa Townsend is the Police and Crime Commissioner for Surrey. Lisa, morning.
Good morning, James.
What's your message to these people who've been getting up on the gantries?
I think you've already said it, actually. Enough is enough. People are already getting hurt, and my concern is more people will get hurt. And whilst I think all of us would support peaceful protest, that's not what this is. To be absolutely clear, this goes way beyond peaceful protest, what we've seen this week. It's coordinated criminality by determined activists, and I was listening to the clip you played just there, James. And this idea that they're being forced into it, they have no choice, the government is breaking the law. This is a small number of people, quite frankly speaking, rubbish. And the public know that, the Surrey public know that, users of the M25 know that. I was out on Tuesday with the force on the M25. I saw 4 of those protesters being taken down and arrested. And it really is enough is enough.
Right. Is there anything, though, that can actually be done to stop this? We're hearing about people climbing up on the gantries on the motorway. And, well, do Highways England need to do something to actually make it more difficult for them to do that?
Well, I think it's difficult because they are absolutely determined. And, you know, I have some sympathy here with National Highways around this because it is very difficult. When you've got a group of people who are absolutely determined to cause chaos, to put their own lives at risk and to put other people's lives at risk, I think they will find any way at all in order to do this. So there's only so much in terms of legislation, in terms of police work, in terms of what National Highways can do. These people are absolutely determined to get arrested. To be absolutely clear, I've spoken to residents in Surrey recently and last night, in fact, about, you know, well, can we send them to jail for longer? You know, can we imprison them for longer? All of that, make sure they've got criminal convictions. But the sad truth, James, is that they don't care about that. They are quite happy to go to prison. They're quite happy to serve long sentences. Even younger people who I don't know whether they don't realise that a criminal conviction is going to stop them getting perhaps jobs they might want to get, travel to countries they might want to travel to. So what we've got in this escalation is some really serious behaviour. And the only way it's going to stop is by these groups understanding the public are not on their side on this. And the decisions they've taken are wholly their own. They are not being forced into anything.
You mentioned you were out with the police and they say they've been actively patrolling the M25. Give me an idea of how many officers are being used to do this and what it was like for you.
Well, it was interesting. I have to say, getting out there and seeing it for myself was really interesting. Just the vast number of officers who are out there. So we sort of travelled down to junctions, around junction 7 and 8, and then back up again to junction 11, actually, which is very close to where I live, where another protester was taken down. There are vast numbers of police out there, and they're being taken off our streets and our communities, which is where they should be. They're being recalled from leave. Officers who have sort of been on night shift and are having to work for longer, that's not good, it's not healthy, but also pulling in officers from other forces. We had a good number of officers from the Met. I spoke to an officer from Humberside on Tuesday when I was down there. And, the motorway is being shut. You've got large sections of the M25 being closed in some cases for hours at a time, holding up traffic, so that officers and others can sort of stand around, be under the gantries, get there, get up, watch that everything's being done safely. And that's not where these officers should be at all. And it's quite a terrifying situation, actually, in some cases, having to go up those gantries to bring people down who shouldn't be there.
So this is costing Surrey Police, us, lots of money. The police helicopter was up yesterday. Have you got any idea how much it is actually amounting to?
No, we don't have the figures yet, but of course all of that will be being collated, and I'm sure James will speak again in days or weeks and talk about that amount of money. We know from last summer the amount of money that went into it, just in terms of officer overtime and time that went. And as you say, yes, the National Police Air Service have been up and actually visiting them today in Redhill as well, because as it happens, I chair the National Police Air Service Strategic Board, and so I'm going down to speak to them today. But again, they're up in the air looking down places when there are other work that they should be doing, and it doesn't come at small cost.
There were images of a protester yesterday using a D-lock to tie his neck to the gantry, which sounds pretty horrific. Are the force looking at how things could possibly escalate?
Well, I think we all have to consider how things could escalate, and I think that's one of the problems. Somebody is, I fear, going to get very seriously hurt, whether it is a protester, falling, or, as you say, using that D-lock and the problems that can happen there, or one of our police officers. We know an officer was injured Essex yesterday, and I send my best wishes to them and their family for a speedy recovery on that. And then you add into that, as Dr. Ben Spencer was saying, ambulances not being able to get to St Peter's Hospital here, and other issues. So somebody is going to get hurt or potentially worse, which I think is absolutely catastrophic. And whatever these protesters are prepared to do sort of in terms of their own safety is one thing. There's only so much that we can do about that. But everybody else's safety is also really, really important. And they're putting their lives at risk, they're putting other lives at risk, and it's just not remotely acceptable now. We've got to send a message to them.
A journalist yesterday reporting on the protest was arrested by Hertfordshire police, held in a cell for 5 hours. Talking about Charlotte Lynch, who's from LBC, showed officers her press pass, but was still detained. What do you make of that?
I haven't actually seen. I don't know the details behind what happened to Charlotte. I saw the news report about it. I haven't spoken to Hertfordshire Police about it or my colleagues there, so I'm not really in a position to comment on it. But I know that the police are put in a really, really difficult position at the moment because you have protesters going out. They are going to have to deal. They're having to deal very, very quickly with what they're finding. To make sure that people are kept safe, and that has to be their first priority, is to make sure that people are off the roads, that they're safe, and then in some cases, deal with those individuals later, because none of us want the roads to be closed. None of us want to not be able to get to work, to appointments, to hospitals, to emergency services to be able to get through. So whilst I have a lot of sympathy for any journalist who's out there trying to cover this, I also know that the police have a really important, serious job to do.
Good talking to you. Thanks for your time this morning. That is the Police and Crime Commissioner for Surrey, and that's Lisa Townsend.